All right, so this is going to be the X-Men Q&A that I had posted on Patreon. As always, if you guys would like to be part of the next Q&A, just hit the link in the description box below, head on over to my Patreon, hit the first tier, that'll allow you access to do so, as well as be a part of future polls, and also check out movie and episode reviews as well. But other than that, let's get started with the video. Starting off with Imaginate, whose first question is, out of all the movies throughout the X-Men franchise, what actor, actress portrayed their character the best? I mean, the easy answer is, of course, Hugh Jackman, right? Like, we can all agree Hugh Jackman is kind of the obvious answer to no extent. Like, he just embodied Wolverine. But I would dare say they hit on a lot, like the original X-Men movies have hit on those cast. I mean, Halle Berry, not so much, but like Famke Janssen, I liked as Jean Grey. Same with Sophie Turner when she did that role. Fassbender and McKellen, of course, and McAvoy and Stewart were both great, respectively, as two different Xaviers. Kelsey Grammer as Beast. Nicholas Hoult to an extent also. Yeah, there was just a lot of solid casting, and not to say everyone, but I think also James Marsden was also I think he's an underrated Cyclops. I think he's an underrated Scott Summers. So yeah. Second question. I've read that some mutants gain a secondary mutation later in their lives. What X-Men do you think could gain a secondary mutation, and what would it be? I think Beast is kind of my top candidate for a second mutation. Beast mutation, as we know, was kind of like furthered because of he had done experiments on himself. That's why we get blue-furred beasts and whatnot. But I would say Beast, I would give his secondary mutation be that he can communicate with animals. Like, he can basically understand, not like control them, but like be able to like talk to them, like be able to speak, like learn, like understand what they're saying. So that's what I would do. Third question: before the aftermath of AVX, what heroes in the Marvel universe, actually stopped and decided to help the X-Men and mutant kind? Really, there were a few. I mean, the Avengers were kind of off doing their own thing, but so were the Fantastic Four, but really it was kind of Spider-Man, and that was it. Like, that's really what it was. Now, granted, that has changed a lot since AVX, and thankfully we don't have to go with that nonsense anymore. So, really, before that, it was really just Spider-Man. That was it. Anyway, thank you for those questions. Imaginate. Moving on now to Nolan Unejo, asks, if Ed, Edd and Eddy got mutant powers and joined the Xavier Academy, what would happen that would get them kicked out? I would say just Eddie trying to get money and trying to be like the best X-Man ever. That's kind of what it would be. Now, as for what their superpowers would be, that's a tough one. I would probably say for superpowers, I would say for Ed, I mean, superhuman strength. He's kind of got that already, but let's double it. Eddie, I would say like kind of like the Purple Man, like Kilgrave. He would be able to like talk and manipulate people through his voice. And Double D, telekinesis. There you go. Second question: what other kaiju would you like to see fight the X-Men? I think it'd be kind of fun if we had like them, since the X-Men go on so many space adventures. It'd be kind of cool to see them fight King Ghidorah or Gigan. I would even say, like, I know it's kind of a mech than kaiju, but he's still kind of in the Godzilla. He's basically in the Godzilla wheelhouse. And maybe we'll get this for Godzilla Destroys the Marvel Universe. I would love, and I know someone's going to go, actually, we're going to see Ghost Rider Mechagodzilla. I know, but again, that might be just a cover. Like, that just might be a cover in the comic. Kind of like how they had an alternate cover of Jet Jaguar versus Fin Fang Foom for Godzilla versus Hulk, and that never happened in the comic. So it could be like that. But getting back on point, I would love to see like a Sentinel Mechagodzilla. That'd be kind of fun for them to fight. For others outside of Godzilla, I'd say Gamera or Kong. Third question: if you could join the X-Men, what would your name and powers be? I wouldn't know about name, but I would love to do like probably like Maybe teleportation. I always had an affinity for that power. So thank you for those questions, Nolan. Moving on now to Gordon Rajani, who asks, did you ever play the X-Men Legends game? And if so, which character did you play most as? Cyclops in X-Men. X-Men Legends is such a good game, honestly. It is such a fun, awesome game, and I really loved it. I really loved all the characters, but Cyclops was always the numero uno for X-Men Legends. Second question. Do you have a favorite spin-off X-Men mutant team, like X-Force, New Mutants, X-Factor, things like that? Okay. I do. I really enjoy New Mutants. I've always had an affinity for the New Mutants, that whole team. I would also say, like, for others, X-Force. And specifically, not Rob Liefeld's X-Force. Like, X-Force afterwards, like, the Craig Kyle, Christopher Yost X-Force and Rick Remender's Uncanny X-Force, those are great. Like, those are really solid. And so, really, it's just kind of, and also, well, no. Though I would admittedly like to see them bring back Generation X. That's what New Mutants became in the 90s, so. Yeah, but it's kind of a neck and neck tie between at New Mutants and X-Force. So, third question: which X-Men members do you think are overrated or overused? It's Wolverine. It's so much Wolverine, and not to say like Wolverine sucks. It's just that he gets overused. Like, I don't know how many people remember like the era when Wolverine was on every team, to the point where Jason Aaron was making a joke that like Wolverine has to plan his schedule to be like, all right, now I'm with the X-Men, now I'm with X-Force on this day, now I'm with the Avengers on this day. Oh, and I got to be on that fucking team too over there. Like, he has to plan his whole schedule around it, and he hates it. Like, that's what I'm saying. Like, when you think of overrated, I wouldn't say overrated. Wolverine isn't overrated, but overused. Like, Wolverine is definitely overused when it comes to, like, in terms of, like, character. For overrated, Deadpool. Deadpool's just overrated. But we'll see how I like this new Cody Ziegler Deadpool run. Chris did send me the first 2 volumes of the Cody Ziegler Deadpool run, so maybe I'll like it, but Deadpool's overrated. I would say also, like, if we're going to, like, overrated X-Men, that's kind of it. So thank you for those questions, Gordon. Moving on now to MZ's97, who asks, what are your thoughts on the X-Men anime that was released in the early 2010s? What do I think of it? What do I think of it? Here's what I think of it, right here. Yeah, I have the complete series on a 2-disc DVD set. This came out, for those wondering, during the era of when, remember that game channel that was like GameSpot? Not GameSpot. Like, it was some gamer channel, and that's where, I can't remember the name of it. And it doesn't matter because it just ended up sucking and then tried to come back and failed miserably. It came out in that era, and it also came out with like a Wolverine, Blade, and Iron Man anime. All of them mid. The X-Men one's good. The Wolverine one's ass. The Blade one's pretty good, pretty decent. The Iron Man one's eh. But the X-Men one is pretty good. But in general, they're all kind of like mid. The X-Men anime is kind of a neat story in that, like, the X-Men have split up and come back together with Emma Frost after the Hellfire Club caused Jean's death in the Phoenix Saga, and it also involves the U-Men, a very unique X-Men villain. So, I think it's pretty solid. It's pretty good. I like it, but I can see why you don't. And also, it ends on a cliffhanger that never gets resolved. Second question: what is your least favorite X-Men comic that you've read? Chuck Austin's X-Men run. Like, I know it's kind of an easy answer, but Chuck Austin's X-Men run is just unmitigated ass. It is just that. Chuck Austin's X-Men is just garbage. It's boring, and it damaged the X-Men franchise for a solid minute. As for others, anything Rob Liefeld wrote, or Drew. Like that's the thing. Like there's some solid X-Men runs, but when they're bad, they're really bad. Oh yeah, Bendis's run. Like and I think I got a question on Brian Michael Bendis's X-Men run, so I'll go deeper into that. But yeah, that's another one I fucking hate. Thank you for that question. Your third question is, what is your favorite moment from X-Men the Animated Series? There's a few from like Wolverine's fighting Sabretooth, and he's like, I know about guys like you. You always pushing little people smaller than you. Well, I'm smaller. Try pushing me, bub. And just launches himself at him. I would also say from X-Men 97, the moment where Magneto like rips the the UN Council out fucking chair. Rips the UN Senate hearing out of the ground and just flying over space. He's just like, bigot. Like, he says bigot with his whole fucking chest. And, of course, when Val Cooper says Magneto was right. And, yeah, that show is... I'm so worried about Season 2. And I don't know if I got a question on that, but, like, I'm so worried for Season 2 because now the writers that are taking over were the writers for What If. So, who knows how that'll turn out. But those are some that come to mind. So think about those questions, MZ. Moving on now to Mount Vernon Kid. Hey, Chris, how you doing, brother? His first question is the Summers family, the Rasputin family, the Howlett family, the Guthrie family, the Proudstar family. What is your favorite mutant family? It's the Summers family. It is 100%, without a doubt, the Summers family. And not to discredit like the Rasputins, the Howletts, Wolverine's family, the Guthries, the Proudstar's. Okay, so just to let you guys know, I actually tried to do this Q&A last night with Manos. We had done that interview that you had probably seen, and I highly recommend you guys go and check that interview out, because not only did I have a sit down with Manos, but it's also to promote his Red Knight comic that he has on Kickstarter. So yeah, go check out that video and hit the link in that description box to help Manos with his comic Red Knight. But getting back on topic, last night we had done a previous review that sadly we lost, and thankfully we got to do a new one that I think is even better. But getting back on topic, we had also tried to do the X-Men Q&A, which also got lost. So that's why I'm kind of doing this solo. But during that video, when we got to this question, Manos said it best. You could take out all the X-Men stuff out of X-Men, and if you just had the Summers family as the focus of an X-Men book, there's still enough drama, action, and everything you need in a good story to tell an X-Men story without the other X-Men. You can just do it with the Summers family. That's how good it is. Like, that's how good of characters the Summers family is. Like Scott, Alex, Vulcan. Think on that. Like, there's Scott and Alex, who are both capable X-Men. I mean, Scott Summers is, like, the greatest X-Man ever. Fight me on that. Jean Grey, his wife, also his blonde side piece, who's also awesome. You have Alex, who's kind of in a relationship with his brother's the clone of his brother's wife, who had a child with Scott Summers, who became Mutant Jesus, mutant time-traveling Jesus with guns. And they also adopted into the second Mutant Jesus, and she's really awesome, too. Oh, and let's not forget that Vulcan, the Lost Summers brother, is out in space and being like either a space emperor or tyrant or whatever. And also their dad is a awesome space pirate who goes around fighting space fascism while stooping a cat lady. Oh, and also they're tangentially connected to a guy who calls himself Mr. Sinister, who is all about genetics, but in reality he's just Transformers Prime Starscream if he was a big pansexual mess. So, you know, I hate to say it, but like, it is the Summers family. Actually, I don't feel bad about saying it. It is 100. The X-Men. The Summers family is literally the core of X-Men. You could say stuff like, Wolverine this and Xavier that, but like it's this at the core of it, the X-Men are the Summers family, and the Summers family are the X-Men. So that's just my 2 cents on it. What are your thoughts on? What are your opinions on Talia Josephine Wagner, aka Nocturne, daughter of Nightcrawler and Scarlet Witch? Oh, the character from Exiles. I think she's a cool concept. That's kind of what Exiles, at the end of the day, really all it is just, hey, check out this really cool design. That's really, at the end of the day, all it is just, hey, check out this really cool, look at this really cool design, and let me know what you guys think of it. And she's all right. Third question. Looking at the giant-sized X-Men team in 1975, did you think the 5'3" Canadian mutant would be the face of X-Men? No, I did not, because the thing of it is that Wolverine was quite literally just meant to be a throwaway character in Hulk comics. But then Chris Claremont looked over and was like, hey, I need a character from Canada. Do we have any of those? Not really. What about that yellow guy with the knife hands? Oh, yeah, you can use him. Thanks, guys. I'm not totally going to make that character an awesome, like a fan favorite for decades to come. And on top of that, also kind of allude to that originally he was meant to be a actual Wolverine who evolves into a man. Yes, that was Chris Claremont's original idea. That Wolverine was meant to be a actual animal Wolverine that evolved into a man. Oh, and he also found out his name is Logan from a leprechaun. Just gonna stay silent for a few more seconds so that can sit in. Yeah, that happened. Go look it up. It's true. Think of those questions, bro. Moving on now to Hunter Johnson, who asks, who would win in a fight between Wolverine or the T-1000? I would say Wolverine probably eke out a win in some capacity. In some way or form, Wolverine would probably eke out a win. His healing factor would be fucked, though. Second question. What would an ideological clash between Magneto and Superman look like? I think, and this is interesting because, again, I go back to like the original Q&A I did with Manos, is that Manos brought up the point that that Superman would really empathize with Eric a lot. Like, Clark and Eric would have a lot of like ideological thoughts because like Clark's also lost a lot. Like, he lost a whole home world. He's lost his dad in some continuities. He doesn't really have his own culture anymore. And I think he would empathize with Magnus up into the point where it's like, oh, you want to kill people. I can't let you do that. But I think, like, ideologically speaking, is that Superman would be pretty understanding of where Magnus is coming from. Like, a lot of Magneto's anger is a place of legit pain that Clark knows. So that's kind of the thing, is that Superman wouldn't be like, oh, I have to stop you, Magneto. I mean, it would probably get to that point, but like, if Magneto and Clark like had a sit down, like Clark and Magnus like sat down and talked, I think Clark would be like, I get it. You're mad. You've seen the extermination of your people, of both your family, your people, and your species. You know, your culture, your original Jewish culture, the mutant race, and the mutant race, excuse me, absolutely annihilated, and you felt like no one could come to save you. So, yeah, I absolutely agree. Like, I absolutely think it would be up to a point. It would be Batman who would just be shit talking Magnus a lot, and like, I would love to see Magnus just be like, all your toys are so crushable. Anyway, third question. What would happen if you gave the abilities of Cyclops and Jean Grey to Dipper and Wendy? Probably just do a parody of that cover from the Dark Phoenix saga where they're like fighting in space together. I also think that Wendy, I'm going to assume that like Dipper gets the Cyclops' powers and Wendy gets Jean's powers. I think she'd be like, looking into Dipper's mind, and he'd be like, uh-oh, is she reading my thoughts? Quick, don't think of anything sexy. Oh no, now I can't help but think of anything but sexy. So, there you go. Anyway, think of those questions, Hunter. Remember to hydrate, kids. Next set of questions come from David Deister, who asks, if you could create an MCU X-Men team, who would you consist of? You said Cyclops, Angel, Beast, Iceman, Jean Grey, Wolverine, Storm, Colossus, Nightcrawler, Shadowcat, and Jubilee. I say the original 5. I would say, without a shadow of a doubt, the original 5 X-Men should be the ones that are the mutants. But it'd probably have to be Wolverine because Wolverine value and all that. So I'm gonna have a little fun here and say maybe do the 90s lineup, because here's the thing: the 90s lineup of X-Men is all you like. That's 90s X-Men team was iconic, and everyone knows it's iconic. So just do the 90s a variation of maybe have some members of the 90s variant and the original 5 X-Men, and we're good. Second question: how would you rank each era of X-Men in comics? There are so many eras, but Claremont's run, that's peak. That is the top of the mountain. Undisputed, the Claremont era is the undisputed peak of the mountain. Following that is Krakoa. You can bitch all you want. I don't fucking care if anyone comes there's I didn't like Krakoa. I don't fucking care if you didn't. I liked it. I genuinely like the Krakoa era of X-Men. I've said this before, and, what else do you want me to say? Then I would probably say the 90s era, because that was when X-Men was just everywhere. Quality did vary sometimes, but I think that was another great peak right there. So, yeah. That's kind of my answer right there. Third question: what do you think is the worst thing about both Magneto and Professor X have ever done? Give me a shopping list. I mean, as much as we all empathize with Eric, he has done some horrendous things. He kind of did kill a lot of people, although granted it was in response to Genosha being wiped off the map. There's also the matter of, you can justify a lot of what Magneto did. You can't really justify what Xavier's done. I don't know. Being the reason why Onslaught was created. Creating a team to go save the X-Men from Krakoa back in the giant-sized issue. They all got killed off or sent into space, if you're Vulcan's case, and wiping everyone's mind of that, including Scott, whose brother Vulcan was on that team that got mind-wiped, and also multiply mind-wiping the X-Men whenever he ran into a situation that kind of compromised him. Also kind of lusting after Jean when she was 15. I'll stop there, but there's other times. Oh yeah, and also when he abandoned the X-Men to go get some Lilandra pussy. Lilandra Usi. That joke sounded so much better in my head. I'm never doing that again. He wanted bird pussy. He wanted alien bird pussy. That's what he wanted. Anyway, thank you for those questions, David Deister. Moving on now to Alistair Bondman, who asks, we all know about the honestly pretty weird X-Men crossovers with various Star Trek series. If we were to get a new Star Trek X-Men crossover, which series of Trek and what members of X-Men would you want to see most crossover? You said 7 of 9, meaning Laura. I would say if we were to get I was about to say it may never happen, but we're getting Godzilla X-Men, we're getting Godzilla versus Marvel. DC is crossing over with Marvel again. We're getting Batman Deadpool, 2 Batman Deadpool crossovers later this year. And of course we have the Alien Predator crossovers going on right now. And the Ultraman Avengers crossover, which I think comes out in trade in about June 10th, so 2 weeks. So I'm assuming Chris is going to be sending me that, so be on the lookout for that review. But getting back on topic. So I would have said a while ago, maybe it'll never happen, but who knows? Maybe we could get another X-Men Star Trek crossover. It's now in the realm of possibility that we could get another X-Men Star Trek crossover. So having said that, what would I pick? I would say they would probably go with, because it is popular, it's the new hotness, Star Trek Strange New Worlds. Have it be Star Trek Strange New Worlds be with Pike, and have it be I would have it be the current X-Men team right now, with Jed McKay's X-Men. I would also say Colin Kelly and Jackson Lanning's run, which is coming to an end in comics, which is a cool series that has like Cisco, who's best captain ever. Fucking fight me on that. Yeah, Cisco leading a team of like fan favorite characters. It's pretty fun. It was pretty fun. I've only read volume 1. I've been meaning to get the other volumes, but I digress. I would say like I don't know what the story would be, but I would love to have Vulcan be the villain, not Vulcan the planet or Vulcans in general, like Scott's brother Vulcan be the villain, not for like but I know there'd be some dumbass joke along the way. So maybe the Brood. I take that back. Like, let's have the Brood be the villains. Because Vulcan... Someone's going to be like, Vulcan's the same name as our world. Shut the fuck up. Anyway. Think of that question. Your second one is, while I have so many key issues with Krakoa, one of the major missed opportunities is I feel basically never had a various members of Wolverine's family, at least the relevant ones, just hang out and act as a family, as we know is a regret that... Oh, yeah. I think that is something that we did lose. I think that was more like Ben Percy's, because he was doing all the Wolverine stuff. So we didn't really get a lot of, like, Logan chilling with, like, Laura, or, being friends with, reconnecting with his son Daken, which he kind of, he tried to reconcile with Daken, and he only got that chance up until when Sabretooth killed him. But now Daken's a Ghost Rider. He's Helverine now. And he kind of adopted... One of the things I do like is that he did adopt Quentin Quire into the Wolverine family. So he does consider Quentin his other son, which I do like. And he also adopted Gabby as his other daughter. But I do think it's a missed opportunity. One of the few missed opportunities from the Krakoa era where I was like, damn. I mean, it's cool that he and Laura... Like, Laura considers him his father, or her father, and all that, and, like, there's a great moment where he's, like, world's greatest dad and all that. But, yeah, I do wish we got more with him, bonding with Daken and Gabby more. And, though it was cool to see him adopt Quentin. Third question. Have you ever read the X-Men fanfiction X-Men New Class by Ambra Renee? Oh, I'm not even bothered pronouncing that. I'd love to hear your thoughts on it. I highly recommend reading it. Haven't read it, but I'll check it out. That's my answer to that. Thank you for that question, Alistair. Moving on now to Jason Voorhees 2011, who asks, what was the first X-Men comic you ever read? It's really hard to say. Like, I can't really remember what my first X-Men comic ever was. I feel like the first X-Men comic I ever read, at least in my memory, was some random issue of like 90s X-Men. I think it was like I was at a flea market in my old town, and I found like an X-Men comic for 25 cents, and I bought it, some random 90s issue. I can remember that. Like, I can definitely remember that was the plan. That was the thing. Like, that's the core of it. I just can't remember the issue specifically. Have you ever read Days of Future Past Doomsday? I have not. It's one of the... For those wondering what Days of Future Past Doomsday is, it's basically acts as a prequel to... it was actually written by, I think, Mark Guggenheim. It's a recent comic also, where essentially it talks about, like, the Days of Future Past timeline and how it built to that moment. It's, again, one of those lost tales kind of stories. I'm surprised Claremont didn't write that, though. It was Guggenheim. So, no, I haven't read it, which I'm shocked I haven't. And your third question, what are your thoughts on X-Men Evolution? Absolute cinema. That's the best way to describe it, is absolute fucking cinema. X-Men Evolution had some big shoes to fill, but I think it did a great job. It's also funny. Did anyone else find it funny, real quick, that quite literally the 90% of the cast were the dub cast from Inuyasha? I'm not joking. Like, they were the English dub cast from Inuyasha, and they were all, like, Moroku's voice actor was Scott. Danny Cook was the voice of Inuyasha. He did the voice of Quicksilver. I think Sango's voice did I think Sango's voice did it was either Kitty or Wanda, I can't remember. But like also David Kane did the voice of Xavier, the voice of Shomaru. He did the voice of Xavier. Scott McNeil, who did Koga, he did Wolverine. Kagome's voice actress, I think she did Jean, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, I just thought it was so fucking crazy that like the vast majority of that cast did X-Men Evolution. I don't know, and I'm sure someone's going to be on here like, actually, X-Men Evolution and the dub cast were all part of the same production company. I'm sure that's the case. I don't know for certain. I don't know if that's true or not, but I'd believe it if you told I don't know if that's true, but I'd believe it if you told me. Yeah. So, but X-Men Evolution, getting back on track, like X-Men Evolution was nothing short of peak, like doing a high school drama, but with X-Men characters, and also doing like some fun variations of characters. And how they did Apocalypse was terrifying. Like, I think that's one of the coolest versions of Apocalypse. I mean, nothing could beat the 90s cartoon, but still, I think it's a close second. Anyway, thank you for those questions, Jason. Moving on now to Tom Hibbert, who asks, what are your thoughts on the car scene from Deadpool and Wolverine where Logan tells Wade he will never save the world? Well, he kind of did. I think it kind of defeats the purpose, right? Like, he did actually, like, save the world. He actually did, like, do the impossible and save the world. That was kind of the the big moment of, oh god, of like, wow, he actually did. So, I mean, it's a great acted scene. Don't get me wrong. Second question. Do you think it's weird how, unlike in the movies and cartoons, Professor X in the comics does some very questionable things like faking his own death to the X-Men or surrender Krakoa? Yeah, I find it fun. Like, I do find that interesting that, like, Xavier is like a paragon of justice and humility in the cartoons, but in the comics we know better. Like I just listed off earlier, I listed off like a lot of shady shit that he had done throughout the series, and yet, here he is being a paragon of all that. I think that's for the better, honestly. I don't think anyone could root for Xavier if they knew the other stuff. Third question. Do you think the original Ultimate Universe version of the X-Men was way too dark? I think it's too dark and too stupid. Mark Millar is really not a good writer. Granted, there are some good things he's written, like, of course, Old Man Logan, but his Ultimate X-Men is just way too fucking edgy, and one of the reasons why, and also his Ultimates, but less said of that, the better. But, like, that whole comic series is absolute garbage. It's just edgy garbage that wants to be like an edgier version of the Bryan Singer movies. Costumes suck. All the characters are just act like edgy assholes, and there's really no one to grab onto. I mean, Wolverine basically tries to lust after Jean, and also let's not forget that in a body swap story in Ultimate Spider-Man, it's heavily alluded to that he fucked Mary Jane in Peter's body, which is not cool. So yeah, fuck the original Ultimate Universe in general, but mostly the X-Men. Anyway, thank you for those questions, Tom Hibbert. Moving on now to Bill McLaughlin, who asks, which X-Men do you feel gets underutilized? Everyone who isn't from the 90s cast. But I will say the one who's recently gotten, like, I feel like shafted the most or underutilized is kind of like Darwin or Synch. Synch's got some love in the Krakoa era, but I think one X-Men who does get underutilized a lot are a lot of the cast from Wolverine and the X-Men comics from Jason Aaron. That whole, if it isn't Quentin Quire, everyone else in that comic gets underutilized. Even Hope has been kind of downplayed as of late. Like, she got really downplayed over the years. And I'm not going to say, like, oh, it started getting downplayed in the Krakoa era. No, she was getting downplayed after AVX. So, therein lies the problem. So, I'd say Hope is another one. Second question. What is your favorite lineup of the X-Men? Like I said, without a doubt, it's the 90s lineup. It is peak X-Men. It is peak superhero team. It is absolute perfection. That whole 90s lineup of Scott, Jean, Rogue, Gambit, Beast, Wolverine, and Jubilee, and Storm, and tangentially connected Cable and Bishop. perfect. Absolutely fucking perfect team. Like, that is one of the best superhero lineup teams up there. Like, I would rate that up there with, like, a lineup of, like, Grant Morrison's Justice League. You can't get better than that. Anyway, sorry, I lost my train of thought. Yeah. So anyway, so third question. Aside from Magneto, who's your favorite X-Men villain? I would say, like, my favorite like, in terms of, like, favorite X-Men villain, like, it's Mr. Sinister. It is 100% Mr. Sinister. He can go from being sinister to being just a big mess and a big goofy dumb mess in a heartbeat. And I've always enjoyed his aesthetic. I've enjoyed him as a character, and I wish I would see him in a future movie. I wish to see him in a future movie. That's kind of my whole thing, is that I just really want to see him in a future film. I know everyone, like, I know it's kind of a basic answer, but yeah, it's Mr. Sinister. I think there's a lot of cool things he does, and I think he's also the reason why I enjoy villains who can clone people that aren't named the Jackal, by the way. So, yeah, I think that's also the reason why I enjoy, like, geneticist villains. Anyway, thank you for those questions, Bill. Moving on now to Brittany Digger, who asks, what did you think of Brian Michael Bendis' 2013 X-Men run? Fucking sucked. I mean, there are some interesting things he does with Cyclops, but he makes him way too too much of a dictator. And you could say, oh, but at that point, after post-AVX, he was kind of out of his mind. No, I don't know what it was with Bendis' X-Men, but there were just some questionable things they did afterwards. Also, I feel like he kind of made Cyclops too militaristic. And I also feel like he was doing, like, surface-level lip service to what X-Men is about. So Bendis' run can go fuck itself. Second question. If I couldn't get with X-Men what I couldn't get with X-Men is that people hate mutants because they have powers, but they don't hate heroes like Fantastic Four and X-Men. Can you explain that? Well, I think that, like, Jason, who did answer that question, said it best, where in that question, it's writer inconsistency, where some people are, like, too, like, afraid of superheroes in general. And again, it's supposed to be an allegory for, people of different race or gender or sexuality. That's the core of what X-Men is. But it does get kind of interesting that, like, 1 minute they'll be like, yeah, go, Spidey, or yeah, Captain America. And then they see, where'd you get your powers? Oh, I was born with them. Fucking mutie. Yeah, it's like that. I also would love, and I don't know if they've done this in X-Men comics, but I would love just one moment. I would love one solid moment where, like, I would love one moment where someone has a moment of, like, either in the government or just a random human civilian, like, hey, we're lynching this guy. Oh, but he's a mutie. It doesn't matter. No. It's a guy, and we're lynching him. Yeah, but no. Listen, Mike. We're going to hang this guy. Jeff over there is African American. He's black. Sam's Asian. How would you feel if you would you hang them? No. They're not what? They're not what, Mike? Come on. Like, I want also that moment where, like, and I'm sure, like, one of the members of the Trask family have said this too, where they would be like, if we weren't using these on mutants, we'd use them on superheroes, and if we weren't using them on superheroes, we'd find, like, at the core of most of the Trask family, it isn't about, like, killing mutants. It's about making money. So they would find, like, even, I do remember this from one comic where one of the members of the Trask family said, if it wasn't for the X-Men, or if there wasn't any people with superpowers in general, we would just find some group of people, get some politicians riled up and get the general idiot masses riled up and use Sentinels on, minorities. And I would be sleeping well at night. So fuck the Trask family in comics. But yeah, there's never a moment that's one thing I will say is, like, there's never a moment where someone goes, hey, this is kind of fucked. Like, why are we doing I mean, I'm like, I want to have like one like a black like one of the like some African American go, hey, this is kind of fucked up. I'm not gonna lie. Like, we're gonna go lynch a kid who's like whose power is he glows. No. I'm going home. I need to like take a hard look at myself in the mirror. Anyway, so that's my 2 cents on it. Third question. Do you think, what do you like about Magneto as a villain, his motivation, backstory, or something else? Here's the thing. I don't see Magneto as a villain. I really do not. I have never once seen Magneto as a villain, because even as a young kid growing up, I was like, he's kind of justified. Like, we're all going to be mad at the Jewish kid who watched his whole family die in Auschwitz. This seems kind of thoroughly fucked. Like, it really does feel like, you know, there's this level of, like, it got, like, as comics went on, it got harder and harder to justify Magneto being a villain. Especially, like, someone said it best, like, post the Reagan era, especially post-Reagan era, it got really hard to justify Magneto being a villain. I think that's even why they've kept Magneto on the side of the X-Men and kind of a, albeit like a more lethal hero, why he's been changed so much, because it's really hard these days to say he's a bad guy. You know, we're not like, oh, what, the guy, the Holocaust survivor who watched his whole family die and then watched multiple genocides of his species is suddenly a villain, while at the same time the government to the country he fled to creates weapons that hunt and annihilate people and cause who have also been very complacent in genocide. See what I mean? That's what I think. So, thank you for those questions, Brittany. Moving on now to Cyborg 19.99, who asks, what DC characters would be considered mutants if they exist in the Marvel Universe? Could you see them join the X-Men? I would say probably like Static. Static would definitely be on that list. I would say, I would dare say that, like, see, the thing is, a lot of characters aren't, like, Todd Bronson. Todd Bronson, for those who don't know, is the son of the original. He's the second Wildcat, but Todd Bronson is the son of Ted Grant, the original Wildcat, and Todd Bronson is an actual cat person. That's a mutation in his body. So I would say that would be another solid one right there. Yeah, that would be another one, right? That would be one right there. For other kind of born mutant kind of characters, like a lot of the characters from like Rubber Band Man and others from Static, probably say Terra or Geoforce. Beast Boy, I don't know. Beast Boy's powers are like, he wasn't born with them. So, but those ones I listed, those ones right there. Anyway, so there you go. Second question: favorite X-Men couple. I do enjoy, currently enjoy Psylocke and Greycrow from Hellions, and I'm glad they've carried that with because those two are like, they're two broken people who need each other. Like, they're two broken who only saw themselves as weapons, and they continue to like be each other's support. I really enjoy their relationship, and I'm glad that's carried on from Hellions. I would say, of course, Scott and Jean. You can't go wrong with Scott and Jean. I also do enjoy Scott and Emma just a bit more. I think I'm just going to say it right now with no fear. I like Emma Frost more than Jean Grey. Yeah, I said it. I said what I said. I think Emma was a better fit also for Scott. And I know someone's going to be like, oh, but Emma was the homewrecker. Scott could have said no. And also, Scott, I know it's really hard to justify that, but even afterwards, as much as I like Josh Whedon is a disgusting piece of shit, his run basically did a lot of damage control for Emma, and also made it that like Emma's real, like, kind of awesome, and other writers have taken that to new levels, even to being like, yeah, one of the reasons why Emma Frost couldn't during Heir of Apocalypse, one of the reasons why Apocalypse saw that he couldn't pick Emma as his heir was because deep down he knows she actually cares about people. She acts like this big aura of like, you're all just pawns and I'm the, the bitch queen of forever. But like at the same time, it's still this it's still this thing of she cares. Like she actually cares about people. And I'm also going to throw in, there are others like Kitty and Colossus. Of course, you can't go wrong with Rogue and Gambit. Obviously, you cannot for the life of you say no to Rogue and Gambit's relationship. But I'm going to hit you one with that I think should happen, and I think it is kind of happening in the comics. Like they do kind of connect a few times, and they've kind of teased this a lot in the Up from the Ashes era of X-Men, and that is Storm and Wolverine. I like Storm and Wolverine together more than I did Storm and T'Challa together. Aurora and Logan really complement each other. They're both people who had these really rough childhoods. They're also been stern core members of the X-Men, and Storm can just see through Wolverine. Like, he can put on this Billy Badass kind of feel, and at the same time, Storm's just like, I can see it. Like, you don't scare me, Logan. And I also really liked when Jason Aaron put them together and they had that relationship right up until, Wolverine had that death in the Charles Soule run. And I wish they went back to it more, and it looks like they're going to come back to it more. And honestly, like, I think Logan, I've said this a few times where I'm like, Logan, you've kind of been chasing the wrong woman, because Aurora is the one you should be really macking on. So, why have Jean when that Scots girl, also Emma, when Storm is like right there, like Storm is right there, and that's a real woman. That is a real woman right there, Mr. Howlett. Anyway, so that's just kind of how I feel about it. Is like, yeah, and again, it is really cool that we're getting sorry, this has been a long day. That Storm and Wolverine are kind of like, they're kind of hinting at that a lot in the comics. So hopefully they keep it with it this time. And again, I'm not the only one who agree. Like, I'm not the only one who doesn't who agrees with that sentiment. Is that, yeah, Storm and Wolverine just make a lot of sense as a couple. Like, there's no doubt about it. As for some others, real quick, I guess I'll just fire out some others. For some other couples, I guess. Cable and Dynamo and Domino. I've always enjoyed those two. Cable and Domino. Forge and Storm is nice too, but I prefer just Storm and Wolverine. Nightcrawler with Nightcrawler just hits against everyone. But Nightcrawler and Storm's also another one I enjoy, but it just goes back to Wolverine and Storm are just better. I do like the idea of Kurt and Wanda together, because they hinted at that a few times, but I don't think that's going to happen. But yeah, those are just a few right there. All right, so your final question is, which anime, cartoon, video game villain do you see being a part of the X-Men? Okay, anime, cartoon, video game villains. Okay. What was I going to say? So, for anime villain, probably like the Major, because again, it's like genetics, and also like he's got his own organization that deals with genetic purification. I'd even put in Enrico Maxwell and Iscariot, because God knows Iscariot would be going out of their way to wipe out mutants. Like, they would go out of their way to like commit a holy war to wipe out the mutants. So I would say Iscariot. That's definitely one. For others, for other anime villains, I don't know. Like, it's kind of tough. Like, I know there's probably like some obvious answer out there. Yeah. No, there's probably like some obvious answer out there. But yeah, let's go to cartoons. Cartoons, I would say Xanatos would be one. Also, I found out in the Gargoyles Fantastic Four crossover, we are getting Iron Man versus Xanatos. Just thought I'd throw that out there. But Xanatos, the Pack would be cool. Like, I could also see Chase Young, because again, we have magical villains for the X-Men too. So, and I think he'd primarily gun after like Psylocke and Wolverine and yeah, those two. Maybe Van Cleise from Generator Rex. Yeah, it's been a hot minute since I've talked about Generator Rex. For others, I know like it's kind of like I'm trying to think of like other like solid cartoon. Oh, Dr. Paranoid from Street Sharks. There you go. Dr. Paranoid would be another one right there. Yeah, those are the few I'm thinking of right now. Anyway, so and video game. For video game, I would say Wesker. Yeah, Wesker would be one from Resident Evil. Oh, because I'm looking at the game right. I'm looking at my games right now for inspiration. Probably Wesker's the only one coming to mind. Maybe Kazuya Mishima and the whole Tekken organization would be another one. Yeah. So, those are the ones I'm really kind of like. Those are the ones that really come to mind for this for villains. I'm sure there's more, but that's all I can really think of off the top of my head. But anyway, so you guys tell me in the comments below what you guys think of this Q&A, and yeah, that's basically the Q&A in general. Let me run through the queue for the questions real fast just to make sure I got everyone. Yeah, just to make sure I managed to. Yeah, I want to make absolutely certain I got everyone, because I don't like I'm always afraid I missed someone, and I actually have. Okay, yeah, I think that's everyone. All right, so yeah, you got so thank you all so much for sending in questions for this Q&A, and as like I said, if you'd like to be part of the next Q&A, just hit the link in the description box below. Head on over to my Patreon, hit the first tier. That'll allow you access to do so. And also, like I also said, please help Manos with his Kickstarter. Go check out that video, that interview. We had a lot of fun on that one. And again, go help Manos with helping continue with Red Knight. But yeah, other than that, hope you all enjoyed this. I'm Mr. Multiverse. I'll see you next time in Multiverse.